Good evening. I'm Dan Wilson, and I'm here to welcome you to the second open poetry mic night. And we've got some good poems for you, and we're just going to have fun reading them. And speaking of fun, I think I'm the first reader tonight. And to start off, we're going to have a couple of haikus, or haiku. And these are written by Dan Wilson, who's apparently trying to get into the game. Gesundheit, I sneeze. With my mask on tight, I wheeze. No aerosols, please. And the second one is haiku. Gesundheit. I walk the halls, it's all right, my mask is on tight. Thank you. And my second reading will be a poem which I did not write, and this guy Robert Frost seems to have snuck into our evening here. Stopping by the woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Thank you. I am reminded of one evening when I went skiing when I was probably in high school, and skiing for us was walking about 2 miles to a golf course on Long Island, which was a hilly golf course, and they let us come in and ski on their immaculate greener lawns. And I had to walk about 2 miles home with my skis on my shoulder in the dark. And this was the night. This was the night. I didn't have a horse. I wish I had. But, so thank you. And our next reader is Molly Bean.
'Twas the eve of midwinter is a takeoff on 'Twas the night before Christmas. When I decided to read it tonight, I did a little research on it and came up empty. The poem arrived on my computer 16 years ago from an address connected with IsisAustin.org. The sender was Kay Keys. There is no Kay Keys in my ancient phone book and no reference to IsisAustin.org online. This is the Isis of Egyptian mythology. There's a spotted owl mentioned in the poem, and it has been on the endangered list for years. The author, Aurora Borealis Medicine Turkey, is totally fictitious, perhaps assumed names for some of the group members who got together to write this. First of all, someone had to come up with these wonderful first 2 lines, perhaps in the shower. 'Twas the eve of midwinter, and all through the coven, the witches were cooking strange things in the oven. I can only imagine the women planning this project with one saying, "I'll do the menu," and another saying, "I'll do the goddess names," and then getting back together again to stitch the whole thing together. And not all of the stitches are perfect. I love it for its joyful celebration of the season, for its imaginative menu, for its fine rhythm in many of the lines and its flippant appropriation of "'Twas the night before Christmas." "'Twas the eve of midwinter. "'Twas the eve of midwinter, and all through the coven the witches were cooking strange things in the oven. There were mugwort frittatas, and dragon's blood stew, and mescaline eggnog, and mandrake fondue. There were hot mountain oysters, and a roadkill pate, and spotted owl kidneys, and wombat flambe. The circle was cast, and the herbs had been smoked in hopes that the goddess would soon be invoked. When out by the hot tub there arose such a clatter, I jumped on my broom to see what was the matter. And what should I see in the blackberry thorns but a soaking wet goddess and 8 unicorns? I was just getting high with my wild dancing pals when you called, interrupting. You witches are callous. I came to you anyway over all my objections and got lost in the woods. You give lousy directions. You turkeys invoked me. Now look at my dress. My period's late and I've got PMS. She cursed and she muttered. She looked like a wreck. The unicorns whimpered and spat on the deck. We gave her some weed. We got her some grub. We brought her clean towels and she soaked in the tub. Then she rose, wet and dripping, and gave us her blessing and jumped in the chariot without even dressing. On Isis, on Eris, Oya and Astarte, on Ishtar, Inanna, Kali, and Hecate. We heard her exclaim as she climbed through the air, "Thank goddess there's only 8 Sabbats a year."
Thank you very much, Molly. That was funny.
Hello, my name is Joan Mueller, and they suggested I give you a little bit of introduction. I'm fond of poetry. I've liked it for many years, but recently I decided I wanted to spend time with one poet at a time. And Louise Glück has just won the Nobel Prize for literature. She has many other prizes, a long-time poet, so I'm going to spend time with some of hers. And the one I've chosen tonight is some of the mystery of life, not so much the celebration. It's called Matins, which is a word that's used in the Roman Catholic service for a certain service at a certain time of day. It's also used in the Anglican Church. But when I looked it up, the second meaning was matins was about birds calling in the morning. So see if that shows up. It's Matins by Louise Glück. You want to know why I spend my time? How I spend my time? I walk the front lawn, pretending to be weeding. You ought to know. I've never been weeding. On my knees, pulling clubs, clover from the flower beds. In fact, I'm looking for courage, for some evidence my life will change, though it takes forever, checking each clump for the symbolic leaf. And soon the summer is ending. Already the leaves turning, always the sick trees going first, the dying turning brilliant yellow, while a few dark birds perform their curfew of music. You want to see my hands? As empty now as at the first note? Or was the point always to continue without a sign?
Thank you. Go. Thank you, Joan. That was wonderful. Are you sure you couldn't have done it with your mask on? Well, anyway, thank you. Thank you much. Okay. Our next reader is Monita Prince. Come on up, Monita.
The poem I'm reading tonight was the very first one I wrote when I joined the Thursday Morning Poetry Writers group here at Westminster. I've been so thankful for the encouragement and gentle criticism I have received from far more talented and experienced poets than myself. I've learned a lot since this poem was written, but I still like it. It's one of my favorites. A Tree in Winter. How beautiful a tree alone in a field. No competition for the light, no power lines, no savage pruning, just natural, symmetrically shaped. Beautifully donned in rich green, but also lovely in the winter when every twig stretches out, black lighted by the sky, blue or gray. Each twig had lifted its leaves into last summer's sun's rays, producing the symmetrical beauty which pleases us in winter. The thicker boughs, like mighty arms, support the separated wooden fingers whose tips draw an arc or several across the sky, blue or gray.
And our first reader is Paul Lehman. Paul is a professor emeritus from the University of Michigan. Paul.
This poem is called After the Turkey by Raymond A. Foss. We sat sated in the den, ready for pie, but not quite, needing to sit a bit, settle our bloated tummies, because it was after the turkey, after the rolls, after the potatoes, the gravy, cranberries, the vegetables, the stuffing, the bounty of the feast we call Thanksgiving, when seconds become thirds, and the eye is bigger than the stomach, and eating is expected because cooking is love, and love is the eating all of it. And we sit quietly, letting the tryptophan do its thing, slowly easing the day and making us ready for dessert. In the event that tryptophan is not a part of your daily vocabulary, I can report that tryptophan is an amino acid that's a necessary component in the diet of all vertebrates, including humans. And this poem is constructed as a single sentence. It's held together by 13 commas and a semicolon, and the author didn't bother to place a period at the end, which may or may not be significant.
Much better.
Christmas 2020. Two sisters, one followed tradition, the other adventure. Rarely spoke between the two. One reared a family, several generations, while the other sought meaning in her seeking and thinking. One Christmas it happened. The one with family made her bow gracefully, and the seeker began the role of keeper of those held tight. The family as sharers, learners, discoverers, owners of what they believe.
Thanks so much, Anne. We enjoyed that very much.
This is by Tennyson. Ring out, wild bells, to the wild sky, the flying cloud, the frosty light. The year is dying in the light. Ring out, wild bells, and let him die. Ring out the old, ring in the new. Ring happy bells across the snow. The year is going, let him go. Ring out
the false. Ring in the true. Ring out old shapes of foul disease. Ring out the narrowing lust for gold. Ring out the 1,000 years of old. Ring in the 1,000 years of peace. Ring in the valiant man and free, the larger heart, the kindlier hand. Ring out the darkness of the land. Ring in the Christ that is to be.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. That was wonderful. Our next reader is Laurie Humphreys. She's a damn Connecticut Yankee. Laurie?
I chose this poem, Christmas Mail, for 3 reasons. The author is Ted Kooser, my new favorite poet. It is a Christmas poem. And most importantly, it is a poem which shows how a poet, using imagination, metaphor, and language, transforms the pedestrian into the sublime. It's as though Kooser was given an assignment: write a poem using these words: cards, camels, sheep, donkey, cow, shepherds, wise men, tin mailbox, rural carrier, and a white styrofoam cup, and write a poem that tells the Christmas story. He did it. You try it. Christmas Mail by Ted Kooser. Cards in each mailbox, angel, manger, star, and lamb, as the rural carrier driving the snowy roads hears from her bundles the plaintive bleating of sheep, the shuffle of sandals, the clopping of camels. At stop after stop, she opens the little tin door and places deep in the shadows the shepherds and wise men, the donkeys, lank and weary, the cow who chews and muses. And from her styrofoam cup, white as a star and perched on the dashboard, leading her ever into the distance, there is a hint of hazelnut and then a touch of myrrh.
Thank you, Laurie. Our next reader is Ruth Lehman, who is a professional French horn player. Ruth?
My poet tonight is Robert Dover Service, who has a very interesting biography. The first of 10 children, he was born in Lancashire, England in 1874 to Scottish parents. When Robert was 5 years old, he went to live with relatives in Scotland. He composed his first piece of poetry at age 6. In all, Service wrote 6 novels, 2 memoirs, and over 1,000 poems, including The Cremation of Sam McGee and The Shooting of Dan McGraw. The poem I've chosen tonight is clearly another poem in the unique style of Robert Service. My Holiday. I love the cheery bustle of children round the house, the tidy maids a hustle, the chatter of my spouse, the laughter and the singing, the joy on every face, with frequent laughter ringing. Oh, home's a happy place. Aye, home is a bit of heaven. I love it every day. My lineup of 11 combined to make it gay. Yet, when in June they're leaving for Sandport by the sea, by rights I should be grieving, but gosh, I just feel free. I'm left with parting kisses, the guardian of the house. The romp, it's true, one misses. I'm quiet as a mouse. In carpet, slippers, stealing from room to room alone, I get the strangest feeling the place is all my own. It seems to nestle near me. It whispers in my ear. My books and pictures cheer me. Hearth never was so dear. In peace profound I lap me. I take no stock of time, and from the dreams that hap me, I make, like this, a rhyme. Oh, I'm ashamed of saying, and think it's mean of me, that when the kids are staying at Sandspot on the sea, and I evoke them clearly, disporting in the spray, I love them still more dearly, because they're far away.
Okay. And our next reader is Martha Cook Ward, who is the sister of Ken Cook. And we welcome her to our little program tonight.
A mug of coffee streams steam into the moist morning fog as I wait for the sun to appear, to remove the night's veil. Fragrances cling, earth and quiet. I listen for birdsong, even now after birds have flown south, crossing borders. Perhaps their song will provide a hopeful greeting, a welcome to those seeking refuge. Canción de Esperanza. Here in my refuge, I remember everyone draws breath from one sky, and we are lost without caring for one another. May refuge be found and gifts given to families seeking freedom at all costs. Such is life's pageant of hope and love in every season.
Okay. And we've had fun bringing you this program tonight, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you next year.